My Amazon business generates me 20 to 25K a month in profit. And just for some peace of mind, here's my Seller Central dashboard, 820,000 so far year to date. And between Walmart and eBay, we've done just over a million so far this year. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I got here, how I started, how I scaled, and what I'm doing now to grow even further. So yeah, I started selling on Amazon a little over 4 years ago. I started with online arbitrage. And back then, as you can see, Kohl's was clearly my favorite retailer to source from. I mean, I would say my first 100K was almost purely from Kohl's. But yeah, arbitrage worked great for a while. I did my first quarter million or so solely through arbitrage. But as I started trying to scale more aggressively, I kept running into issues with getting ungated. And if you're not familiar with what ungating is, Amazon requires a invoice to get ungated to sell certain brands or categories. And the issue is that Amazon doesn't acknowledge a retail receipt like a Kohl's invoice, for example, as a valid invoice to get ungated. So yeah, this issue with ungating is what led me to the wholesale model. Wholesale is simply means you're purchasing products directly from the brand or from one of their authorized distributors. And the invoices from the brand or the distributors is exactly what Amazon is looking for when they're evaluating you to get ungated. But honestly, the biggest advantage of wholesale isn't just, getting ungated. For example, with arbitrage, you might find a profitable product by 20, 50, maybe 100 units before the opportunity is gone. Either the store runs out of stock, the sale ends, the price goes up. But with wholesale, if a product is profitable, you can often keep ordering it indefinitely. And from these relationships, you can eventually segue that into acquiring exclusive rights to sell either a specific ASIN or the entire brand's catalog. And that model, the exclusive model, is actually what the biggest Amazon sellers in the world do. In fact, the largest Amazon seller named Pattern, who just went public last year, I believe, this is their whole model. That's the only thing they do. They work directly with huge name brands, and I think they'll do about $2 billion this year. To give you an example, here are two ASINs I've been selling consistently all year. Between the two of them, they've generated about 3,200 in profit. Nothing flashy, but that's the exact point. The consistency is what makes wholesale so powerful. So compound this between hundreds of ASINs and you're making a lot of money. So once I had the wholesale model figured out, my next challenge became scaling it. And the first bottleneck was warehouse space because most distributor and brand direct accounts will ship to you on pallets. So it's going to come on an 18-wheeler. And a lot of the time, they won't ship to a residential address. And if they do, they're going to charge you some ridiculous liftgate fee. So either you're going to utilize a prep center or get your own warehouse space. And in my case, I decided to get my own warehouse because I don't know, I just like to physically look at the product. I actually maintain the quality control and things like that. And this is actually my first warehouse space right here is 1,200 square feet, 200 square feet of office, 1,000 of warehouse. And that might not sound like a lot, but we were able to scale to over $1 million in 12 months utilizing this space. So it's more than enough. And then about a year ago, we moved into this space, which is 5,000 square feet. And that is way more than enough. I think with 5,000 square feet, you could easily get up to $10 million a year if your prep workflow is efficient. And then another big bottleneck was most of my time was spent going through supplier catalogs and line by line checking what works and what doesn't. I mean, UPC scanners are great, but I think manually sourcing is definitely the best way. At least that's what I've found. Um, so I decided to hire virtual assistants overseas, and their sole job is I send them the product catalogs, and they will one by one go through them, see what works and what doesn't, build a PO, send it to me. I verify it, and then yeah, it's a major time saver. So that was a huge thing that helped us scale up a lot. And then another very underrated thing in the e-commerce space right now, I think, is Walmart, because similar to Amazon, Walmart has WFS, where Walmart stores and ships your inventory. And just like Prime, it's, 2, 4 days. It's very fast shipping. Um, right now, Walmart's still a relatively small part of our business. I would say around 10 to 15K per month. But I think it's one of the biggest opportunities in e-commerce today. The biggest limitation has been access to reliable sales data, but as Walmart continues improving its ecosystem, I expect to scale much more aggressively there. Right now, they're in the works to fix their API because it's not good at all. So, and I think one of the new API endpoints will be some form of quantifying sales data on particular listings. So, once that happens, then Walmart is going to explode, in my opinion. So, the next question is, what am I doing now to scale even further? And one of those things is I'm looking at purchasing a 6,500 square foot warehouse that's actually right down the road from the one we're in now. And purchasing it is a huge commitment because that is a lot of capital down that could be put towards, inventory. However, where I live, there's not many warehouses for rent that are 5,000 to 10,000 square feet, which is what we need. So it's looking like I'm just going to have to suck it up, put down the capital, and, go from there. And another thing we're doing is developing our own internal software. And the goal is to essentially combine everything you need to run a business like this into one system. So you'll have repricing, inventory management, restock forecasting, shipment workflows, reimbursements, analytics. I mean, everything you can think of, just all under one operational suite. Because the big issue with Amazon software is, you know, when you get into this, you're going to end up with, 5 to 10 software subscriptions because every software is so specialized that there's not one that encompasses everything. And having a software like this is going to be huge for the business because it's going to make managing it much easier and much more efficient, which means more money. And another major bottleneck right now is purchasing, because to this day, I've personally reviewed every PO we've ever sent. Um, yeah, that's a massive use of my time, but I also think it's necessary because every order deserves a quick review to make sure the listing looks healthy. Amazon hasn't jumped on the listing. Margins are still good, and nothing has fundamentally changed. Because I've seen some ASINs do some odd things. I'm sure other Amazon sellers watching this can agree with me on that. So yeah, the next key hire for me is a purchaser. Once I can successfully hand off that responsibility, it'll free up a bunch of my time and allow me to focus entirely on growth. And for me, growth means acquiring more brand direct accounts because at this point, I already have a strong distributor relationship. So the focus is solely going to be on direct partnerships with brands and to eventually segue that into securing exclusive agreements wherever we can. Because in my opinion, once you've reached this stage, going exclusive is the path to building something much larger, something capable of 10 million plus a year. Well, I hope I could help shed some light on what it looks like to grow and scale an Amazon business. I know this was a fairly quick overview, but in the future, I'll be making much more in depth videos about the topic. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all watching.